We've been a winter resort for a long time, over 75 years, and just now started getting into kind of the bike season and the summer season. Typically, we're a pretty steep, rugged mountain in the wintertime. In the summertime, we use a different portion of our hill, about 800 vertical feet to access for mountain biking.
The thing that came out of your presentation to me was you kind of don't know the word no. Can you tell us about that journey?
It started, I'm almost 10 years ago now, with the fact of doing a feasibility study, working with Gravity Logic, who at that time was part of Whistler Blackcomb up in British Columbia. So from their aspect, when we first started down that process with a feasibility study from them, their recommendation is we didn't get into mountain biking, that the trail building would be too difficult, in regards to what we would get out at the end. I took their opinion, but at the same time, we continued forward.
And we'll get to another no in a second, but once you did make that decision to go forward, there was obviously a process of winning over various key stakeholders. Can you tell us about that?
The Forest Service was the first big one. So there is a lengthy process that's involved with them coming up with a master plan. We were one of the first folks to do that in the States, or at least in Washington State, in a long time. So getting them, the Forest Service, to really understand what we were trying to accomplish was, at that time, a bit of a challenge. Their mindset of what we were going to do with mountain biking was really fall line riding, bashing through the woods, just hell-bent to do whatever you wanted. And it took us taking them to Whistler in British Columbia to show what a bike park could be. Not that we will ever be Whistler, nor do we want to be.
So you won them over, and then you got the next no, which was a knockback on funding that was initially granted. So what then? So
during this entire process, the Forest Service was the first big hurdle, and then we worked on our board of directors from a financing standpoint. We were, I'll say, deep in finance just to get the approval through with the Forest Service. Once we got that approval, our ski area was up for sale. It was changing ownership. The economy in the States was not was doing as well as when we started this project. So as soon as we got approval, they pulled our funding. Said we can't fund this project anymore. So that was, I guess, the third maybe no in the process.
Not bad. And then this is where it takes an interesting twist. You guys pretty much went out and crowdsourced funding before the term crowdsourcing was even coined.
It's true. We had been beaten down, a number of us who were kind of in this from the start, with a number of no's to get to this point, and we just couldn't see it die. So we actually had one of our patrol doctors at the resort came up with this idea for us and threw it at us and said, hey, what do you guys think about selling an actual pass, and kind of creating your own group? And then went back to our board and said, if we can sell $200,000 or basically raise $200,000 to basically seed this to get it started, would you reconsider the funding to get this off the ground? And they agreed, and they said they would. So what we did is put together we sold 5-year season passes, and 200 of them for $1,000. We did use the internet to a certain extent to get those out, but I'll be honest with you, between myself and at the time, my good friend Chris Rudolph, he and I really just went out and high-fived everybody we could that we thought would be interested in basically supporting the idea.
It's your fourth summer of running the trails. Can you tell us where you're at right now and the sort of riding that these trails deliver?
Sure, so we just finished up what we call our phase one. This is the first phase that we proposed to the Forest Service back in the day. So that included the 5 trails, and that's a beginner trail, 2 intermediate trails, and an advanced trail. Did I get that right? Sorry, 2 advanced trails. So that is a range of intermediate trails and purpose-built jump flow trails. So that's what we have right now for 5 trails. Our beginner trail was our last one to come online. We just finished that in September. It's an amazing trail. The boys love it that built it.
Favorite mountain biking trail?
Well, at my own mountain, powered by Rudolph, or what we call PBR, in namesake of the late Chris Rudolph, and at the same time, one of our favorite beers, Pabst Blue Ribbon, is an amazing trail, and I can't stop riding it. But if I start looking around, and you go to Whistler, someplace like A-Line or Dirt Merchant is definitely up there as well.
And is this your first time in Australia?
It is my first time in Australia.
So your first ride here will be the epic?
Actually, the first big one. I did a couple laps yesterday here at Mount, I have to say it's Bulla, right?
You've
not
got the
Bueller.
accent. No,
yeah.
it's not Buller. Bulla, perfect.
I want to say, I always think of Ferris Bueller, but it's not Bueller, it's
Just
Bulla.
spend time on the vowels.
So, but the Epic is coming up and I'm looking forward to it. I've read a lot about it and I've heard about it, so I'm excited to ride it.
And final question, are you a better mountain biker or skier?
I've been skiing longer than I've been riding a bike, so I'll say that.
There's hope for you yet.
Yeah, I like doing them both. I love them all.
Well, thanks for having us. Thanks for the chat.
Hey, thank you very much.